Welcome to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast, where we celebrate and share powerful VBAC homebirth stories to inspire and support mamas just like you. I'm your host, Ashley Winning, a VBAC homebirth advocate and mama of 3, and I believe every woman deserves to birth with confidence and trust in her body. In each episode, you'll hear real-life stories, expert insight, and encouragement to help you feel informed and empowered on your VBAC homebirth journey. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast, where we challenge the mainstream narratives around pregnancy and birth. I'm your host, Ashley Winning, and today we're diving into a topic that is long overdue for real talk. I was recently involved in some conversations and a full day workshop or project with other stakeholders discussing plus size women and women in bigger bodies. And it made me think, I haven't done anything recently on bigger bodies, and yet it was so much of my own personal experience. So I wanted to talk about that, how plus size women are treated in the hospital system and what their options are for a home birth. If you're plus sized and pregnant, you're likely already encountered the biases, being told that you have a big baby, that you must induce, that you will develop gestational diabetes. You might have already felt unheard, dismissed, or treated like your body is a medical condition rather than a life-giving force. But here's the thing, this isn't just about hospital births. For some plus-size women, home birth can be an empowering, safe, and supported choice. And today we're breaking down what size-friendly care should look like, whether you're birthing at home or in a hospital, so you can make the best decision for your body and your baby. I want to share that some of my experiences birthing in the system, I didn't actually understand or actually recognize that I was being discriminated against for my body. And I had to also overcome a lot of my own programming and what I thought was appropriate for someone of my size. And I think that I, at times, gave a little bit too much leeway and thoughtfulness around how the care provider may be feeling. There was a lot of conversation around having a bigger body and that could be harder for me to have a baby, and all of the reasons why after we'd gone through VBAC and all the other things. It really was a huge conversation time and time after again for me not having a VBAC in the hospital because of my bigger body. And they were logistical things like we don't have senior obstetricians working in the middle of the night, and if you needed an emergency C-section, our junior team wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Okay, great. So I understand that's a logistical challenge. So why not transfer me to a bigger hospital? I mean, I was in the location where I was surrounded either side of me by tertiary hospitals, and they laughed at me when I gave them a solution to their problem. So I thought, okay, that's not really a big issue then. And it was a big issue. What continued to happen was the fear-mongering and the reasons why I wouldn't be able to have a vaginal birth, making me distrust my body even further, which is really hard for bigger women because the very first thing that I went to the doctor before I fell pregnant with my first, and I said it was a rando doctor, so I didn't know them. And the only thing that they said to me was, I just recommend that you lose weight. And the reason why was because you could find it harder to fall pregnant. And that was the only information that was given to me during that time that I can remember. And so I said to myself, well, the amount of weight that he wants me to lose is going to take me a very long time. I've been trying for a very long time to lose the weight. So we'll try and get pregnant and see what happens. And I fell pregnant the first time. And so I felt very lucky and blessed because I'd been told that, it could be a problem, it could be an issue. So I guess that's myth number 1 busted, that it will take you a longer time because you're bigger to fall pregnant. That has not been my lived experience. And it also just goes to show I understand that certain groups of people are put into categories that there may be a higher or a lower chance of something happening to you. But again, it just reminds us to think about Well, how much of a higher risk, or how unlikely, or how much harder is it going to make me? What is that compared to a smaller size body? So if I'd actually had said to him, well, what is the difference between a bigger body and a smaller body, like conception wise, maybe he said it might be a tiny bit harder for you to conceive. And then I would have felt, oh, and it would have been a more balanced conversation if maybe the conversation had gone a little bit like that. But no information was given. And therefore, your mind kind of goes to places that it will be harder rather than it can be. And I've seen this time and time again, especially with women who have PCOS. I remember a very long time ago, a girlfriend of mine at work, she was sleeping with her partner or boyfriend, unprotected, because she had been told with PCOS that it can be harder or that she can't fall pregnant. And I've heard that so many times from women who have been told that they can't fall pregnant, and lo and behold, they do fall pregnant. So I think sometimes language is very important, but also the importance of some of the messages that we have been taking on as women, that we have received through media, through movies, through our families, our parents, the school system, ourselves, reading Dolly magazine, Girlfriend magazine, whatever. There is a strong emphasis that bigger bodies are wrong. And one of the things that I love to harness, someone special to me once pointed out the Venus of, I can't remember what it's called, but there was these beautiful little statues that they found in the ground all over the place. And our ancestors used to have these little Venus of Vanderhoort or something like that. Anyway, they're a sign of fertility. And it was a big, beautiful, herbaceous woman with, actually, if you've ever seen that, it actually looks like my body. So for the first time, my body type was being represented on an ancient statue, and people carried these around or put them wherever they put them. But it makes me feel so validated and special to know that body shape, because in our society, that body shape is not seen as beautiful or like someone who's got fertility, but it makes sense that at some time it was. And it's just that the trending culture at the moment doesn't find our bodies or that body shape as beautiful. But there must have been something about it that made the women or the people of that time worship or think about somebody with that body shape as being the ultimate ideology of a fertile person. And my lived experience is that I am a fertile myrtle. So therefore, it makes sense to me. I'm not saying that everyone with my body shape is a fertile myrtle, but we all have different experiences. I know plenty of average size or smaller women. Actually, nearly every woman I know who is of smaller shape than me has had miscarriages, fertility issues, or taking a longer time to get pregnant. And so that information that I received very early on was not helpful for me. So I told you that story because I want you to take that, embody that, and try to reflect how many times you've been told that your body's broken or there's something wrong with you because of the shape and the size of your body. And just think about it. You might want to do a journaling exercise after this and actually write down all of the times that someone said that to you. If I think about all of the messaging that I received, it starts off as soon as I was pregnant with my first baby. Before I was even pregnant, I was told there might be a problem. Then when I went to my first ultrasound, it might have been made clear, even though it was very early on, that this needs to be done because you're a bigger person. I can't even remember. Then I had the early GTT screening because I'm a bigger person, bigger woman. I'm getting that message all the time. And then I was told I didn't have GD, and I thought that was great, cool, why would I? Then at another hospital, I was told I do because they had lower rates there. And then I was told you're going to get put on drugs, even though they didn't give me enough time. We're going to put you on metformin, or we're going to go straight to insulin, because the message that I received was somebody of your size isn't going to be able to control your diet or do anything. We don't know you, but that's what we're going to guess based on what you look like. That's the message I received. It's not exactly what they said to me, but these are the messages that I was taking in, which obviously led to an induction and all of the other things. And my second pregnancy, I ended up in a C-section because of it. So I would like to get into some of these and start just hitting them on the head. And I would love to hear your lived experiences too. So please do send me a message on Instagram or send me an email and let me know the times when somebody has said something to you that has made you feel uncomfortable because you have a bigger body through your pregnancies. Could be friends, could be family, could be healthcare providers, could be during your birth. And look, it isn't exclusive to in the hospital system. I have worked with women who have hired midwives to have a home birth and they have felt completely discriminated against. They have the person representing, like the person supporting them has represented themselves as a safe, plus size, inclusive person, however, is lacking general knowledge around how to speak to women who are plus size, and also then recommending going to hospital and doing these other things because of fear around being a plus size woman. So I think it's important to consider that even though we may feel that we are inclusive, if we don't have the lived experience of having a plus size body, we don't understand the nuances sometimes. We don't understand what it's like. And look, I've had Jade on the podcast before and I interviewed her. We did the free birth podcast and she's of a smaller body, and I've shared with her some of the challenges and struggles that I've had in my bigger body, and she has just said to me, wow, I've never considered that because I've never had to consider that and I've never even thought about it. And she's been really receptive and like love listening, but the fact that she's open-minded and willing to listen and understand how that might be different, it just gives people a better understanding and knowledge of these things. So I would love to hear your stories. I would love to hear what has been helpful, what has not been helpful. I don't just want to hear negative stuff. So if you have a positive lived experience, I would love to hear that too, because I have had positive lived experiences with a beautiful GP who has supported me and is size inclusive. And it's just the language and the way that she speaks to me. We'll go more into that a bit later as well. So the first one is the myth of the big baby and how it affects your birth choices. Let's start with one of the biggest scare tactics used against plus size pregnant women, the so-called big baby. Hospitals love to throw around this term, using it as a reason to push for early inductions and even C-sections. But the truth, many plus size women have completely average sized babies. And even if there is a big baby, it doesn't mean the birth won't go smoothly, especially if you're allowed to labour naturally without unnecessary interventions, which doesn't often happen in a hospital birth. If you're planning a home birth, this myth might come up as a scare tactic. Family, friends, or even some midwives might question your ability to birth at home simply because of your size. But here's the truth. If you're healthy and have a low-risk pregnancy, your weight alone does not make you high risk. This is why finding a provider who truly understands plus-size pregnancy is key, whether you're birthing at home or in hospital. Number 2, the push for induction versus physiological birth. One of the biggest challenges plus-size women face in hospital settings is the aggressive push for induction. The reasoning? Let's not take any risks. But here's the reality. Inducing labor increases the likelihood of medical interventions, including epidurals, continuous monitoring, and even C-sections. The body is often rushed before it's ready, leading to a cascade of interventions that might not have been necessary at all. For those considering home birth, this is where the difference in care really shows. A truly size-friendly home birth midwife will trust your body's ability to birth naturally. They won't rush you. They won't use fear tactics. Instead, they'll focus on supporting your body's natural process and stepping in only if intervention is actually needed. Now, I also want to say, in my experience, they will often recommend in the hospital system that when bigger women go into labour, that you have an epidural on arrival. That happened to me. I declined. And they will want to induce the labour to manage the labour because they want to have the staff in place, quite often because they've already assumed or they're guessing, whatever, that you're going to need an emergency C-section, which is just, and then obviously it actually comes into play because they've done all these interventions, making it more likely that that will happen. The GD assumption and true health monitoring. Let's talk about gestational diabetes. Yes, plus-size women can develop GD, and so can thin women. But if you're a plus size, some doctors will treat you as if you have it before you even take the test. I've heard this so many times. They'll push extra monitoring, extra restrictions, and sometimes even insulin, even if your blood sugar levels are fine. Now, I heard a story recently where a woman was told she needed to do it 8 times because they didn't trust that she didn't have it. Even though they had the evidence in front of them, the bias and discrimination was so ripe that they made a woman and her baby go through the GTT test 8 times. I mean, that is absolutely disgusting, and those care providers should be ashamed of themselves for not knowing better. Absolutely disgusting. In a home birth setting, a size-friendly provider won't assume the worst. Instead of jumping straight to intervention, they'll track actual health measures and markers. Your blood sugar levels, your energy, how your baby's growing, rather than relying solely on BMI as an indicator of risk. This is what real individualized care looks like. It's not about assumptions, it's about your actual health and well-being. So what does good sized friendly maternity care actually look like? It looks like a provider who listens to you, who asks about your health history rather than making assumptions based on your weight alone. It looks like respectful conversations about options, not scare tactics, not pressure, but real discussions where your voice is valued. It looks like informed consent. Not we have to do this because you're high risk, but here are your options, here are the risks and benefits. What feels right for you? It looks like care that focuses on health, not weight, checking blood pressure, monitoring overall well-being, supporting healthy eating habits without food shaming. Mama, let's talk about birth support, the kind that wraps around you like a warm hug and reminds you that you are a powerful beyond measure. If you're planning a VBAC or home birth, you already know that birth isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. And you don't have to do it alone. As a birth doula, I walk this journey with you, offering unwavering emotional support, deep trust, and guidance from someone who truly gets it. I've walked this path myself. I understand the fears, the hopes, the fire in your belly to do birth your way. With in-person support from Brisbane to the Gold Coast and virtual doula support no matter where you are in the world, I help you prepare, not just with knowledge, but with confidence. Because when you feel safe, heard and held, that's when birth unfolds beautifully. Let's see if we're the right match. Book a free 30-minute coffee chat with me at ashleywinning.com. Just click the black button at the top that says find out more and book a coffee chat. You deserve this support, Mama, and I'd be honoured to walk beside you. It looks like emotional and physical support during labour, letting you move, change positions, labour in water. That's a big one because they don't like to let women into the water, and trust your instincts rather than being strapped to a bed because policy said so. Another thing is they often get women to weigh in quite a lot. So that was an experience I had, is they had this scale right at the front of the office and they expected you to go back to the front of the reception after you've weighed in front of everybody, to go to the front and then say, this is my weight. I mean, I don't understand it. If they wanted you to weigh in, why not have the scales in the doctor's office for everyone? Just like you do with the doctor or the midwives or whatever. Just like you do at your local GP. But At the same time, it's probably not even clinically necessary. And just as important, here's a size-friendly, well, what size-friendly care doesn't look like. It doesn't look like being weighed at every appointment without discussion or consent. It doesn't look like being told you're too big to birth at home with no actual evidence to support it. It doesn't look like constant pressure to induce simply because of BMI. It doesn't look like being talked over, ignored, or dismissed. It just is. It doesn't need to be any of those things. If you're not receiving this level of respect in the care, you deserve better and you have a right to demand it. So I would recommend looking for a care provider. Find a size-friendly provider. Look for an OB, a midwife, a doula who truly supports plus-size women and won't let weight bias dictate care. Now, when I was looking for a plus-size provider for my free birth, I was looking for people who I felt a bit uncomfortable around people who were skinny. Maybe that was my own bias. I had a perception that they would judge me. And I don't know if you feel the same, but that's how I feel. I felt if they don't have a lived experience, they probably won't understand. And so I sought out looking for someone who was a bit on the heavier side. And the team that I did, I also wanted to feel comfortable being naked around that team. And I don't think that you have to look for a lived experience person, but I think somebody who has worked with bigger women, who has had the outcome in birth that you want to have, speaking with women who are bigger, who have had a wonderful relationship, and just asking, what did they make you feel comfortable with? Were they size inclusive? Did you feel supported? And allowing women to speak and share as well, if you can get in touch with some real life women to find out, because sometimes people recommend care providers because I found this recently myself. So I had a client who had a midwife, and this is in the USA, and I wanted to check out to see what the midwife was like. And so I went onto the Google reviews, and she had a lot of positive reviews. But when I read them, the reviews were hands-on, told me what position to get into, really felt safe, coached me through. And so from reading those reviews, those women were happy because they got what they felt was the kind of care that they wanted. However, if you don't want to be coached and you don't want to be put into positions, you don't want to be told and directed, and you don't want all these things, then that probably isn't the right person for you. So it's about understanding why someone's given a recommendation and how that relates to you. Is that something you value? Is it something that you want? Or is that something that was great for that person because of their personality and their temperament, but it's not going to fly with you? So it's about really knowing what you're looking for and then also relying on your gut and your intuition as well. Do they look at you up and down? Like, there are some people, I mean, I don't know if this is just a size thing or if there's just people. I remember there was this one lady that I met, and she would just constantly look my body up and down. Like, it was the rudest thing that I've ever experienced, but I knew she was a judgy bitch. She was just the most judgiest person. Like, her husband said to me one time, don't worry about her. She's just really weird with people and she just hates everyone. And I was like, great. So, but she was so non-discreet that she would look you up and down, judging you with her little judgy eyes. And so how do people make you feel? Do they look at you like, oh, and you get that vibe? Or do they make you feel loved and warm and supported and welcome? And really feel into it. I think we all know when we're kind of being judged. Know your rights. You don't have to agree to interventions that don't feel right for you. You can decline extra monitoring, induction, and weight-focused care. Trust your body. Your body's not broken. You are not high risk just because of a number on the scale. Also, I want to say, everyone has, BMI is such an outdated way of measuring health. There are skinny fat people out there, and I want to acknowledge that. People who are skinny, but they're totally fat on the inside, and their health is to the shit. They have absolute terrible health. They may be on their way to having diabetes. They may be on their way to having huge cardiovascular health issues. Just because somebody has fat on their body doesn't make them unhealthy. It may put them at higher risk of certain things, but they may be much more healthier than somebody who's actually skinny fat, eating junk all the time, stressed to the max, potentially doing drugs, potentially drinking alcohol around the clock, or just a lot. There are so many, smoking, vaping, doing things, not moving their bodies, like doing things that is a much better indicator of how healthy somebody is than just looking at someone's size, because we don't know what is going on with people. So that's why doing blood pressure, getting blood work, actually sitting down and looking at what you're putting into your body and your mind and what environment people are in. But unfortunately, the judgment only really comes for bigger bodies. So often skinnier people, it's to their detriment, to be honest with you, because they're not getting the full proper screening often because healthcare providers are only on the lookout for high BMIs really as a sign of bad health. And so in many ways, they're kind of getting lack of care. And then bigger people are getting too much eyes on them, which isn't helpful either. And the next one is connect with or trust your body. Your body's not broken. You are not high risk just because of a number on a scale. And the next one is connect with other plus size birth advocates. Surround yourself with a community that uplifts and empowers you. So there are quite a few birth accounts. There's plus size birth account. They share plus size women photos. You can post your photos. You can share with Jen. I think she has a podcast you can listen to. There is the resource, the new book by Sarah Wickham that's out, Plus Size Pregnancy or something like that. That's a really great book to look into. Obviously, I'm a plus size advocate. I love myself and I love my beautiful body that has birthed 3 babies. I don't really care so much about the way that I look. I care more about fueling my body, looking after my body. And I have compassion and understanding for women who are plus size. So there are a lot of people out there who have the lived experience or the experience of working with women who are passionate in this area. And so reach out to those people, surround yourself with those people and consume as much content as you need to really lift yourself up as well. So please do send me your stories or your experiences. It could just be like 1 or 2 paragraphs or, whatever it is. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in today. If this conversation hit home, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a message. Leave a review. I would love for you to leave a review and share this podcast episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are looking for some more support, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat about how I can support you going forward in your beautiful pregnancy and birth. I'll bring you another episode soon, and stay cool. And it's getting cool here in Australia. It's probably warming up overseas, but I think it's a bit of a rainy day today. So, if it's wet where you are, stay dry, stay cool, look after yourself, and sending you love and light. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast. I hope today's story inspired you to trust your body, own your choices, and embrace the power of birth. If you love this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mama who needs to hear this. Do you have a VBAC Homebirth story to share? I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on ashleywinning.com or on Insta at AshleyLWinning. Until next time, take care and trust your body.